ahead of everything. Give them all that information. And
Capron.
here.
Brecken.
Here.
Moore.
Here.
Scott.
Here.
Waters.
Here. We stand for a moment of silent prayer followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Jackson?
Thank you.
I'm good. How are you, Bob?
We have a proclamation that reads, whereas for over 25 years, the National Coalition of Homeless and National Student Campaign Against Hunger and Homelessness has sponsored the National Hunger and Homeless Awareness Week. And whereas the purpose of National Hunger and Homeless Awareness Week is to educate the public about the many reasons people are hungry and homeless, and to encourage support for homeless assistance, service providers, as well as community service opportunities for members of the community, students, and school service organization. Whereas the Siouxland Coalition to End Homelessness consists of over 35 organizations serving Sioux City, South Sioux, Woodbury County, and Dakota County, and are committed to sheltering and providing supportive services to people experiencing homelessness. And whereas the City Council recognizes that hunger and homelessness continue to be a serious problem for many individuals and families in Sioux City. Now, therefore, I, Robert E. Scott, Mayor of the City of Sioux City, Iowa, on behalf of the City Council, hereby proclaim November 18th through the 24th as National Hunger and Homeless Awareness Week in Sioux City, and urge our citizens to join in recognizing the important roles we can play in making a difference in the lives of individuals and families who are homeless here and elsewhere. I'd like to present this to you. I'd like you to say a few words, if you would.
So my name is Jennifer Jackson, and I am with Heartland Counseling.
And I'm Lindsay Landrum with the Warming Shelter.
And we would like to accept this on behalf of the Siouxland Coalition to End Homelessness. We're part of the Awareness Committee. And I just wanted to share a couple things that we have going on this week. Wednesday is our meeting at 1 o'clock in the basement right here. We meet for 1 hour. Thursday, there's going to be a lunch and learn at the South Sioux Chamber office, and we actually have 2 guest speakers who are have experienced homelessness themselves. That's from 12 to 1. On Friday, we encourage everybody in Siouxland to wear purple, and this is the national color of awareness for homelessness and hunger. And on Friday, also from 11 to 1, we will be passing out sack lunches, so you may see us around downtown passing out sack lunches to different individuals. So
Great,
thank you so much. We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate your support.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you. Thank you. Interview for Planning and Zoning Board of Adjustment. Mike, come on up and tell us about yourself and why you want to get on this board.
Hi, my name is Michael Bayala. I live on 2520 Court Street, and I really want to get in this commission because I ran for city council some time ago, and I feel that there is a lot to learn in the community, and there is a lot of things who has been done in the community in this commission. So for me to be able to serve the community in the future and to understand what is the struggling in the community, I need to be part of this commission so I can be able to think and bring the ideas that I think that can make the city of Sioux City better.
Questions?
Yeah.
Thanks for making the application.
Thank you. What do we have? How many openings?
I think just one.
One, I think, right? And it has to be a male, I think, too.
Just the one, yes.
I got another request. I've been part of the fiscal commission, and I still want to be part of that commission too, for the reason why I think that the fiscal commission is a commission where I can spread my wings because I understand the numbers And the Fiscal Commission seems to be one of the commission where we talk more about numbers. So I still want to be part of this commission if that's possible. If not, I would take the Planning and Zoning Commission.
All right,
Sounds good.
thanks, Mike.
Michael's
you.
term on the Effective Fiscal and Public Policy Committee expires on December 31st of this year. So if you appointed him to
still
P
got
and
1
Z,
month.
Okay,
you'll have to reapply.
all right, thank you, Michael.
Sounds good.
That's his,
Thank
fir-
you.
that's his first term?
Yes, that's his first full term. He served a partial
Okay.
previous to that.
Al, I didn't see that I hit my agenda. Now, would you like to come up and introduce your,
Yes. I'd like to introduce members of the Sioux City Art Center's Board of Trustees, Mike McTaggart and Bob Gillespie. And I'm retiring in January of 2020.
I
And
bet you thought I was going to lose the election and you were going to outserve me, but I fooled, I fooled you, didn't
yeah,
I?
you certainly did. It looked like a shoe-in all the time. And then with that, I'd like to introduce the person who's going to replace me. The Board of Trustees interviewed Mr. Behrens and decided to offer him the position, and he's accepted. Todd Behrens will be the new director starting January the 4th of 2020.
Say a few words.
Few words. Well, I'm very grateful to Al and to the Board of Trustees for their trust. I've been at the Art Center for 10 years as the curator, and I've fallen in love with both the Art Center and the community. My family, we moved here 10 years ago, as I said. My son was born here a few months after we moved, and we've really embraced this community, and the community has embraced us. And Al has put us in a really great position for the future with the recent reconstructions, renovations, but also what he has done in terms of funding and programming. So it's a really exciting time, and I'm looking forward to the challenge.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Mike, as long as you're here, I dropped you a note today, but thank you for your service to the school district. We appreciate that as well, so thank you. We'll go to the consent agenda, which are items 3 through 14H. You can consider all these to pass unanimously. If you want to speak on this item or one on at the end of the agenda under citizen concerns, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Remember, we have a 3-minute time limit, so try to gauge that with your remarks. I'll move the consent agenda.
Second?
3 is a reading of the City Council minutes of October 30th and November 4th. 4 is a motion approving the Effective Fiscal and Public Policy Committee Annual Report.
Mayor, I just want to thank the committee for their accomplishments that they have set out in their report. They provided feedback on the creation of a CVB, reviewed the parking rate proposal, reviewed the sewer rate proposal, and reviewed Senate File 634 on property tax reform. So good job. Thank you to the committee for their good work.
5 are resolutions approving the Tax Income and Finance Annual Certification of Compliance and Urban Renewal Report. 6 are resolution adopting 2020 supplements to the statewide standard specifications and design manuals. I'd like to defer this for a week. I sent Mr. Carney a note and Mr. Gordon a note, I think, and didn't get any response. So could we, yeah, I did. I asked, yeah, well, I'm pretty sure I sent it to you. I sent it to Bob, I know, asking why about liquidated damages in this here. Okay, I'd just like it to defer it for a week. I didn't get an answer on what I asked.
I'll second that.
1 week, Mayor.
Yes?
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Waters.
Aye.
Capron.
Aye.
7 is a resolution authorizing fire rescue to submit a grant application to Firehouse Subs for use for 250 smoke alarms for the Safe Home project. 8 is a resolution granting a permit to Fibercom to maintain underground cable near West 19th Street and Hamilton Boulevard. 9 are actions relating to agreements. A is a resolution approving change order number 17, revised to the contract with L&L Builders to the Convention Center Reservation Project. I would like to pull this and have a separate vote, please.
You ready for that vote? Moore.
Aye.
Scott.
No.
Waters.
Aye.
Capron.
Aye.
Greckin.
Aye.
The reason I'm voting no is that these revisions, for the most part, were known when we did the bathroom, and I think in all fairness, we ought to have a little bit better transparency around here, and they should have come forward at that time, rather than come almost a month and a half later, so. B is a resolution approving a First Amendment to Public Service Radio System Governance Agreement with Woodbury, Dakota, and Union Counties and South Sioux City, Sergeant Bluff, and North Sioux. C is a resolution approving a contract to KP Construction for the 10th Street and Irene Street paving project. D is a resolution approving a contract with Sioux City Engineering for the emergency Andrew Avenue sanitary sewer repair project. E is a resolution approving amendment number 1 to the consulting services agreement with JEO Consulting for the Rose Alley Hill Inlet Sidewalk and Curb Repair Ramp Project. Generax.
Can you explain this one a little bit for me? I was trying to.
Redesign of that wall.
That's what I was going to ask. Is it just kind of in regard to that wall and the material and things like that, or what?
Yep, Jill, oh, go ahead.
Nope, go right ahead.
We're going to fight over it.
Got all the answers.
No. Jill Wanderscheid, Neighborhood Services Manager. Basically, when we brought this to council before, the project had not quite closed out yet, and so we weren't sure of the final cost for the engineering component of the project. Now that it's closed, we have the actual cost, and that ended up being $10,111. About $1,300 of that was related to the shop drawing review of both the poured wall and the block wall. That was not included in their original scope, and so that's why we're recommending that that stay in as part of the change order.
Thank you.
What was this change order 2 weeks ago when we said, make them explain that? Wasn't it 14.5?
It was, I can't remember.
12.2, I think.
Yep, and that was because that was a not to exceed amount. Since the project is closed, they have their actual costs and dollar amount of what that was, so that's why we're coming back with a lower amount.
So in the past, when you've had these not to exceed, have they ever come in anything less than not to exceed?
Yes,
They have.
yep, absolutely.
Give me 2 examples this week when you get back to your office.
Okay, will do.
10 are actions relating to personnel. A is a position amending the job description for the utility director position. B is a resolution amending the position of environmental services manager to environmental service program and development manager. C is a resolution approving a contract and salary schedule for the Sioux City Professional Fire Association, July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2023. 11 are actions authorizing the issuance of checks. A is a resolution approving a payment to certified testing services for the Convention Center parking deck project. B is a resolution authorizing payment to K&P Construction for the Martin Building Areaway Improvements Project. 12 are approved total payments and fund transfers issued for October 2019. 13 are applications for beer and liquor license. See the list. Come forward if you have questions. 14, receipt of minutes. See the list. Come forward if you have any questions. Anybody have anything to say on any of those items, please come forward now. None will vote. Passes 5-0. Recommendations of planning and zoning. 15 is an ordinance rezoning 5607 and a half Sunnybrook Drive. Petitioner Eagle Construction. P&Z recommends approval. First consideration approved November 4th, 2019. I'll move second reading.
Second.
Anyone to be heard on this item? Seeing none, it appears that they met with the neighbors and
Do you want to, yeah, you can come give an update if you'd like.
My name's Josh Kruger, 1305 East Benson Road, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, with Eagle Construction. I was able to meet with Dennis Pottorf and his wife last week and talked about kind of any concerns that they had left over from the last couple of planning and zoning and city council meetings. And I was able to go through everything with them, provide a lot of detail that helped them understand the project and the scope and kind of how everything operates on the whole planned site. And we did both agree that it would be beneficial for them and us to add a section of fence on one side, on the northwest corner of our
Yeah.
parking lot, just to make sure that pretty much all activity stays within our project bounds. And they were happy with that, and I just told them that I would make sure to keep them informed, and gonna send them some project renderings as soon as I get them done, and just make sure that any concerns they have are taken care of. You know, we're here to be good neighbors, and it just gotta work together, so.
Thank you for doing that.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Wasn't there also a concern about traffic? Engineering was looking into the traffic. Are we doing anything with that?
That'll be part of their site plan.
Oh, okay.
Gordon Fair, city engineer, we are still looking into that for their connection for, into the Lowe's parking lot area.
Yep. So what are you going to do? You're going to do a traffic count or?
No, it's not so much that, because we've already done that study.
Okay.
For the whole area for Sunnybrook. It's just a matter of getting the access from Lowe's
Oh, okay.
to be able to put a signal there.
Is there a timeline for that? I mean, that's kind of what I was wondering too, is obviously if we pass today or something contingent upon that, or we just hope to negotiate and work through that process? What's that going to look like?
Working with Lowe's, you mean?
Yeah.
That we're leaving it up to the developer to contact them to make sure we get the access.
Because I think that's going to be critical, you know what I mean, is to be able to have that area.
Correct, yeah, there's that second access, how we've proposed and worked with the city to show it is definitely the way it should be with how the traffic should flow in the area. And we've been in contact with the real estate department that handles all of the land issues or ideas down with Lowe's. And they've been very receptive to what we're proposing. They have some ideas as well. They've definitely been willing to work with us so far, and we're positive we can reach an agreement with them and get this figured out, and in a way that helps the city and helps, you know, get a traffic light at that intersection, and just kind of work all together. It takes everybody at the same time just to kind of plan something like this out, and so far it's been going very well.
So you think you will meet the warrants requirements to put another traffic signal in there? Based upon the information you have already?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
We already warrant one at Sargent Road and
I was going to say,
Sunnybrook.
I was trying to think with or without this, is that light
Without
happening?
that.
Wut. But what I'm
With
saying is,
this,
even
we're
if
gonna
this
then
project
warrant another
doesn't,
one.
even if this project doesn't go, are we still putting that second light? I know there's the one at the on-ramp. On-ramp.
That one doesn't warrant yet, the one at the off-ramp.
Oh, I thought it did.
Not quite. We have to, the DOT will be working on that one when it comes time, when it warrants it there. But,
Excuse me.
yeah, Sargent Road and Sunnybrook, that one there does warrant it, and we've put that forward CIP.
That's not the intersection we were talking about, though, or
That's
is
the
it?
four-way stop now.
I know that's a four-way stop, but weren't they talking about signals at an intersection farther down to the north from that intersection? Yes.
Yes.
So there'll be one, Sargent Road, there'll be one
One at the Lowe's, the North Lowe's
that
entrance.
goes over in between Target and that strip mall on the west side of the road?
Yes,
Okay, so there'll be two new ones, eventually. Okay. Thanks.
I think I got it.
Any other questions?
I like the optimism. Here we
Thank
go.
you. Passes 5-0. Is anybody opposed to waiving the statutory rule?
Nope.
Nope.
I'll move.
Second.
Scott?
Aye.
Waters?
Aye.
Capron?
Aye.
Greckin?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
I'll move third reading.
Second.
Passes 5-0. 16 is a hearing resolution designating an area for urban renewal and adopting amendment number 1 to the urban renewal plan. I'll move that.
Second?
Public hearing is now open. Would anybody like to speak for or against this resolution? Seeing none, the hearing is closed. Passes 5-0. 17 is ordinance amending various chapters of Title 7 Animals. First consideration approved November 4th, 2019. I'll move second reading.
Second.
And did you guys change those fees downward?
Yes.
They did and would have to make a motion to incorporate those changes into this motion that's been made. So I'll make that motion to incorporate the lower fees.
Okay, there's a second ordinance that's attached to the request for council action, which incorporates additional changes outside of just the fee revisions. So in the RCA, what you voted upon last week is first, and then the second revisions are specified. Staff met with Councilman Moore this week to go over additional proposed revisions. Some of those changes are summarized in a slide, a couple slides, not too much.
Yes.
So I'll ask Caleb to put those up.
So let me just get the order here. We can do second reading and incorporate these in third reading, so the public has a right to view them. Correct or not?
They were presented as part of the public packet, agenda packet. If the council wishes to move to incorporate those changes for second reading, you would be able to do that today.
Do that with an amended motion, then, okay.
Correct.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Caleb Christopherson, Assistant City Attorney. At the request of Council, the city put together a graphic briefing for a comparison of the definitions of a vicious animal and a high-risk animal, and then highlighting a couple of the proposed additional changes as Ms. Du Bois has already stated. Brief overview, I'll state what the high-risk and vicious definitions are, then give a side-by-side comparison, followed by the proposed, the changes to the at-large definition, and then a new provision mandating the use of leashes. First, that's a lot of words right there, but essentially, the operative language of high-risk means that there must be some sort of an attack, a chasing, a worrying, not necessarily involving physical contact against a person or against a domestic animal, along with the other cases that are cited there. One thing to note is that if an animal is deemed to be high risk, it's not going to necessarily be a defense automatically if there's some element of provocation. Provocation would be an aspect that is taken into consideration before and after the deeming of high risk or vicious, as I will get to on the next slide. Those types of aspects that could be defenses could be considered at an administrative appeal proceeding. For a vicious animal, the operative language of this definition would necessarily involve a bite or a harm. As you can see on the top, the very end of the top line, it says an animal which bites or harms. So there necessarily must be some sort of physical contact that results in a causing of bleeding or noticeable and documented injury to a person or a domestic animal or the other animals listed there. And again, an animal provoked to self-defense can be a defense, but it is not automatically a defense for aspects that could be considered at an administrative proceeding. The side-by-side comparison will, you can see that, again, for high risk, it doesn't necessarily have to involve physical contact, just be chasing, approaching. It can include a bite that doesn't necessarily involve sustainment of an injury, than the other cases there. Of course, then vicious means that there must be a bite or other harm that causes a documented injury, or as you can see with animals, needs significant medical attention. So, any questions so far? Okay, moving on. The at-large definition has been altered a little bit to kind of clean up some verbiage there, some grammar, mostly. So it had been worded a little bit awkwardly to say that it needed to be on a leash longer than 16 feet, but that's getting cleaned up there, as you can see. And finally, there has not been in the code to date an explicit provision that requires a dog off of its owner's premises to be on a leash. This will change that. And with that, are there any questions from council?
Caleb, am I correct in thinking that if my dog chases someone or even attacks someone, that someone really needs to call in a complaint? I mean, I'm not going to voluntarily call you, the city attorney's office, am I, or the animal control and say, my dog just chased somebody. Isn't that going to be on a complaint basis?
Oh, Councilman Moore, I think that enforcement would necessarily be reactive, so a report would need to be made.
Do we have those reports being made now? Do you know?
Nobody's going to report their dog chasing somebody.
No,
Their
but I
own
mean,
dog.
that person being chased, have very many reports been made?
There are, it's frequent, Mr. Moore, it is frequent that people call in being attacked by dogs.
Okay. And if my dog would bite a family member, am I obligated to report that as the dog's owner, a family member on my premises?
I wouldn't say so, Mr. Moore.
I don't think it's an legal obligation, is it?
I will say this, though, that
It'd probably be very wrong for me to do that, but I'm just asking.
Well, medical
Question.
providers, they would be mandatory reporters if if somebody goes to the hospital for a dog bite, then they're required to report to Siouxland District Health, among other agencies, including law enforcement.
And speaking of that, Caleb, and you've done a really remarkable job on this, and I appreciate it. Thank you for your good work. But speaking of the Siouxland District Health and the number of reported bites, because I'm just alarmed that we had, and I don't have it in front of me now, but it was like 138 bites last year, 139. But those are the ones that are just reported. I mean, is it fair to say there are many bites that go unreported? Or is that just a wild guess?
Mr. Moore, I don't think I can speak to that point, but it would be I would be very confident to say that there must be some incidents that go unreported.
Okay. Well, thank you. I really appreciate these revisions that you've made.
I just want to get one thing clear, though. So let's say somebody has a dog on their porch, but it's not leashed and it takes off running after somebody. What's that? I mean, can the owner be liable for that?
Councilman Capron, under the definition of at large, then if it leaves the owner's premises and it's not under control, then that would be at large. So I guess if it goes into the public street or a neighboring private property, the dog would be at large.
I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that, so.
And if it was, and is this right, Caleb? And if it was in an intimidating fashion or lunged at a person or was acting as if it was going to be attacked without provoked, that's when you could call, make a complaint of a high-risk animal. It would be investigated. Both the owner and the person that felt attacked would be able to state their case, and it would be then the decision would be made to deem high risk or not, correct? I would say that it's a correct understanding.
Okay, so I have another question for you, and this is kind of crazy. So what happens if you have a neighbor that their dog is digging a hole to get into my yard? And what if that dog gets my dog?
I'm sorry, so the neighbor's dog digs a hole under a fence?
Is digging a hole under their fence to get into my yard.
Yeah, it's loose. It's a loose at-large dog.
If it gets to the other side.
It has.
Why did the dog cross the fence?
For real.
I'm just kidding.
Just happened yesterday.
Yeah, get to the other side.
Nice dog, too.
Sure.
They all want to play.
I believe by the letter that sounds like it would be at large, but it sounds like there may be other subjectives that may be considered.
Well, I'm just going to, the neighbor understands that, and I'm just curious because I put a brick in front of the hole, so.
It's just as soon as it leaves property that is not the owner's and it is not on a leash, it is considered at large.
I believe that is a correct understanding.
Not that that happens often.
Spoken like a true attorney that may have to litigate this, you believe that you're not going to make it positive today, which smart move on your part.
Sorry,
Well,
Mayor.
So the point I'm making is, the neighbors' dogs want to come and play with my dogs. How about that? Being that I have a pit bull. Never mind.
Anyone in the audience want to be heard?
Hi, my name is Randy Giles. I live at 33676 Southbridge Road. I just want to, first of all, say thank you for lowering the licensing fee. I think the cat people will still be a little angry, but thank you for lowering the fees. And just really quick, Councilmember Moore, those 138 bites are not just dogs. So those can include cats as well and other rodents, and I think that that is also included in that number. So it's not just dogs.
Thank you for that clarification.
Probably even other animals too, I would imagine.
There are, I think, like
Horses or whatever you
raccoons
would
and
have,
stuff
yeah.
like that. Yes, that's true. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? You need to move an amendment first.
So I'll make a motion to amend the main motion to incorporate the changes that reduce the fees and further define the leash law.
Second.
Did I get all the changes?
Yes, then
Fees.
it would be the second ordinance that was attached to the public information
Right.
to be incorporated
Right.
changes in full. And the other change that is part of that is that the effective date as proposed would be upon publication. Before, we had set a January 1st, 2020 date. But as far as setting the fees and getting the renewals out for dog licensing, we realized we had to do that sooner in order to help the clerk's office out, so we didn't have a lapse in time. So that change is included too.
Mayor, I do want to point out, I received some comments this afternoon that I will be reviewing, we'll be doing a third reading next week. So if I have any concerns, that would be the time to bring those up, because I just haven't had time to read through those.
Okay, on the amendment, Waters?
Aye.
Capron?
Aye.
Greckin?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
And Mayor, I would just like to have one more with Caleb, just one more caveat, or if we could. I was able to speak of the head of animal control a little bit at length today, and I know Mr. Moore was as well. But I think having a conversation where he sat down and explained some of the changes that are going to be made, at the end of the day, I think animal control is the one that's going to have to be enforcing these. And I want to make sure that they're on board and they understand and approve of what we're trying to do here so that we're all on the same page. I don't want it to be where and they feel that it would be against our best interests or that there's different opportunity. I think sitting down with the people that are going to be enforcing this, going to be working through this could be really beneficial. So if over the next week, if Caleb would be able to meet with those representatives of animal control, I would appreciate it, just so I feel like everyone's on the same page. Is that all right, Caleb?
And I agree with you on that, Alex.
Councilman Moore, you had voted and then you hit your button again, I believe. There you go. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Passes 5-0. 18 is a resolution approving an intergovernmental transfer of public funds agreement with the Iowa Department of Human Services for ground emergency medical transport funding. I'll move that.
I'll second it. Director Hayden, I have a couple of questions for you, if I may.
I anticipated that.
Well,
Jim
yeah.
Hayden, EMS Director.
Yeah, how does this affect our bottom line?
That's
I know
a good
that's a very
question.
broad question,
At this point, what we've got is a moving target. When we're dealing with the state, it's difficult. And in fact, after 3 weeks of trying, I finally got a hold of somebody that even knew what the GEMT was. So I'm trying to get as much information as I can on this as possible. It turns out that we're going to be able to obtain probably in the neighborhood of, I'm going to just guess at a $650,000 figure annually. They're basing that off of roughly 1,648 calls that potentially could be rebilled from July 1 of 2019 And then moving forward, it'd be a monthly invoice basically that the state would provide. The number I've been given, and again, these numbers move with the state, but our share of that is 60.2% at this point. We've got a cost report that's due December 31st, which they're just now coming out with instructions for. They've got basically an instructional seminar tomorrow to discuss how to fill out the 10 schedules on that. And before that, we haven't really had any instruction. There's a lot of costs, too, that are up in the air. I've been told by somebody that's allegedly in the know that we can even include some of the indirect costs, for instance, some of the comm center expenses, some of the current fire department expenses. So it's not just the EMS division expenses that we can count into this. The top number that the state has come up with is $1,183 in addition to what we're currently collecting on Medicaid dollars. Again, that's subject to change as the state looks deeper into it.
What is the upfront charge, the $258,000? What's that?
The upfront charge, that basically covers the back charges. So in other words, as soon as we submit any funds to the state, we're able to bill for all those back months. So we could be looking at 6 to 7 months of the back billing that we'd have to send the 39.8 roughly % to the state, and then we would collect the entire dollar amount from Medicaid and do it that way. Initially, what they thought was that we were just going to get the money and then put it in a fund and then pay the state. And again, this is the whole program has been changing as it develops with IDHS.
For the better, though, isn't it?
Well, it's frustrating because I would like to pin them down on actual numbers.
Sure.
But so far, the bottom line numbers have been pretty consistent. It's that top line that moves around and what costs we're allowed to put in the cost report that kind of move and change. But it looks like it's going to very positively impact us. We won't lose any money. In other words, we're not going to send the state any money unless we know we're going to get some in on the back end of it.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
On those upfront charges
Yeah,
that you're talking about. And then my final question is just how are we doing overall, would you say? And I'm not asking you for the annual report or anything like that, but just in operations, how are we doing?
Overall, I think we're doing pretty well. In fact, today we're going through our first day of our accreditation site visit, which it basically encompasses everything from finance to legal, HR, general day-to-day operations, quality improvement. They check everything. And right now we've got 2 individuals that flew in from out of town. They're going through the entire program to see how we're doing, and we should see some pretty positive results off of that. We've had some feedback already, but that'll really give us a picture of how we're doing compared to other agencies nationwide.
So that'll be a written report?
Yes.
That you'll receive?
Yep.
That'll be a public?
It should be. I don't see why it wouldn't be. What they'll do, they'll come up with their findings. Anything that we have to fix, we'll resubmit that to them, and then we'll get a report that spells out where we stand with everything. So.
Appreciate it.
All this RCA is today is to allow us to enter into an agreement with the state, basically. It doesn't really pin them down on it, or it doesn't pin us down on any. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Jim, just if I was talking to a layperson, just someone out on the street and kind of explained this program, what would you say? If someone asked what we were doing today.
With the GEMT?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
You know what I mean? It seems
wish I
somewhat
could have
abstract, and we're
yeah.
paying this large amount up front, but then the hope is to increase reimbursement rates on the other end.
And I won't get into how I described it to a few
Yeah.
consultants at the state because it sounds like a scheme. But actually what it is federal dollars that are freed up in order to help fund the shortfall in EMS. So in other words, what we bill, I believe for a BLS is $830. What we're actually able to collect under Medicaid is approximately $120. So there's that $710 shortfall. It allows us to access federal funds to obtain some of that money back, roughly 60% of that money back, and then of that, well, then we pay the state basically you know, the 40% of that. So in other words, that $710, we get 60% of that to offset our losses.
Yeah.
And the state then takes the other. The reason the state takes theirs first is they're using, it's not all federal dollars, some of it's state, but the state has no dollars to draw from, so the feds make them collect the money up front, and then we get reimbursed that full 100%. It's a confusing, it's taking money out of this pocket, putting it in this one in a lot of ways, but it ends up, it'll help the bottom line.
In certain respects, so it does sound like a supplemental reimbursement.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
And it will increase the bottom line.
And I'm assured with the billing company that it's a matter of moving forward of putting a separate billing code in the invoices to Medicaid to allow for both the regular reimbursement and the GEMT. So that'll be, you know, almost real time after we get going. But we 6 months of money that we have coming to us, and that we'll have to pay the state. Did I describe that the way?
I think I get it.
It's difficult to wrap my head around it some days.
Tell me that number for of calls you've had so far again.
That is now what they're doing, and this is for FY18. So
Okay.
What they're paying us for FY19 actually is based on FY18 numbers, and that's 1,648 calls eligible for that.
Amazing. You're working hard.
It's nice to have a program like that. You know, somebody's looking out for us somewhere. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Passes 5-0. Citizen concerns. Any citizen in the audience want to be heard, please come to the microphone, state your name and address, please. Seeing one.
My name's Mark Solheim. I live at 2909 Garrettson Avenue. And I just stepped up for a moment, to take a moment of your time to say thank you. to Rhonda Capron, thank you for your service.
I appreciate that. It's been a great 8 years.
I know you stepped up to right or wrong, and you did your best to do that. People may not have always agreed with you, but no one can say you didn't vote your heart, vote your conscience, and vote for what you thought was right.
That's the way we all should be. Should be honest and upfront.
And thank you again.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
that.
Thank you.
Mr. Gretkin.
No, sir. Nothing.
Rhonda.
No, I'm going to pass.
Mr. Waters, don't disappoint me. I know we're not going to get out of here by 4:45, so go ahead and do what you got to do.
Waiting on bated breath.
Thanks, Alex.
At my advanced age, I finally had to put a notepad to write them down today because I forget them when I get up here, so.
Yeah, I sometimes. No, not a heck of a lot to go over. I was able to participate in a League of Cities presentation over the weekend, just learning a little bit more continuing education of how to run a more effective meeting as well as work with the budget. That was a great opportunity. I know we have lots of meetings coming up this week, including a League of Cities meeting up in Northwest Iowa that I hope to attend, and some other things going on, but there were various Veterans Day celebrations, everything over the last week that we missed. But just wanted to take this opportunity to thank all those who have served and continue to serve our country and keep us safe. So thank you. That's all I have, sir.
Okay, Mayor and Council. Mr. Gretkin, aren't you traveling a little tomorrow?
Yes.
For the good of the homelessness
Well,
program?
I hope so.
I don't mean to
they're
put
all
you on the
gone,
spot,
but
but that's important.
Amy Kearns, Darlene McMullen, and Jill Wanderscheid and I will be meeting with Debbie Durham
I want my paper.
from the Iowa Finance Authority to discuss possible funding sources for homeless. So
Thank you for doing that.
yeah, you're welcome.
And good luck.
You're welcome. I'm glad to go down.
I just want to echo the comments of our citizen out there at the podium, Rhonda. I think everyone would second that. So
I'm not done yet. Just remember that, guys. I got till, December 23rd.
Rhonda's not
Don't
done
you,
yet.
I'm not done yet.
Put that in the headlines.
That's right.
The last thing I want to
It's just
mention,
begun. No, not true.
Mayor, and I'm just going to read this from the paper so I get it right. But I want to congratulate the 185th Air Refueling Wing for the third year in a row. The 185th Air Refueling Wing, Iowa Air National Guard, has been awarded the Air Force Outstanding Unit Award for exceptionally meritorious service. If I can get it out, yeah. This is what's really impressive. It's the 13th time in its history the Sioux City-based unit has earned the award. And I say from time to time that we have a great partnership between the city of Sioux City and the 185th. So congratulations to them on a well-deserving award. Meritorious, yes. Service, exceptional. It's exceptional. So congratulations. That's all I have, Mayor.
I'm going to bring these up every week until I know what's going on with them. Benson Building, we were told it was safe, then something crashes off the roof. How long does it, I'm sorry, Bob, but I've asked this question and nothing gets done. How long do we get to barricade off a sidewalk before we do something about the building? It's been all summer. It's been since last spring. And here we are barricaded again. I just don't understand it. Same way with the standard office building, the old one over here across the street. Windows wide open in the top floor. Birds have to be getting in there. Damage has to be continuing to happen. Out-of-town owner that doesn't give a rip about Sioux City. And it's just time that something happens on those two buildings. It's just unacceptable. If this were a house in a neighborhood in Leeds, you'd have torn it down long ago. But yet we let these buildings sit around this town, the YMCA, another one. California group comes in, all these great plans, they do nothing, and it makes our downtown, and we're making some progress, but it makes it look like we don't give a darn about some of these deals. And it's just, those three buildings, something has to be done.
I believe the
other one
Benson
is,
building now has a contract for repairs, I believe through Klinger. I will double check that. And then as you're aware, the standard office building is on the red tag for demolition on January 19th.
Okay, good.
The
Which one is that?
YMCA building.
Right across
we're
the
in
alley from the police
communication with
department.
The bonding company.
Right across the street from the courthouse.
We're having some difficulties getting answers back, but it appears that they've abandoned the project, so.
Yep, well, get the bonding company. They posted a bond, so.
Think we can cut those trees down around that building before they get any larger? And the windows keep.
At the Y.
At the Y. It's just awful.
Lastly, I have no idea what Mid-America is doing down here, but they've had 4th Street closed for at least 2 months now. Again, I drive by there, there's nobody working, the crane's never taken anything up. Now, I realize I don't go there every day.
I'm waiting for a formal answer, but I think they had a permit to keep that closed till the end of the month, but I'll follow up.
Okay.
They just came in today to ask to extend it.
No,
till
they
about
haven't
the
worked there
19th.
they haven't worked there for this month that I can see.
They run into problems when they're repairing that skylight that's in the building. Excuse me.
May I only wish it were 10th Street, because Corey'd be chewing us all out, which he should be. But yet, I mean, people that go that way, which I do, to get out of the downtown, it's an inconvenience for the rest of us, so that they can take their darn time fixing a skywalk. It's been 2 months, and that's their excuse, is they haven't been able to fix a skylight? Whatever, extended, but that's a joke, but anyway.
You have the floor for one more minute, Mayor. Not to change.
Just so
the
everybody knows, I didn't have a good day around here to begin with, so it just added to it. Go ahead.
Yeah, you had a very bad day. I know that. Very bad. You know, I was not going to say anything, and I want to, because I would feel bad leaving the council meeting today not saying it. But it's just been a really tough weekend, because we've lost our Chief Justice of the Iowa Supreme Court, Mark Cady.
Yes.
Age 66, apparent heart attack, and he was a good friend. I've known him for over 30 years. He went to the same law school. We went to Drake University undergrad. And I'm telling you, he was soft-spoken, but he was a good leader. And he was the chief of the Supreme Court for a good reason. He was dedicated to the rule of law. He cared about all Iowans and having access to justice for those Iowans. When the Supreme Court was going through a rough time, he put sunshine into the lives of the Supreme Court by traveling to our hometown communities, holding court, so that the citizens of Iowa could see firsthand how the Iowa Supreme Court operates and the excellent services we get from the Supreme Court. He was a visionary. He was an exceptional jurist. Not only did judges have a high regard for Mark Cady, but all citizens did, including legislators. They really did. Sure, they battled over the budget over the years, but everyone, without exception, had a great deal of respect for Mark Cady. So I've been struggling with that because when, something like that happens, I mean, it just hits hard. It was just totally unexpected, and I just have a lot of sadness about it. So I wanted to share that with the mayor and council because you're part of my family and the staff, and I just wanted to say a few words about Mark Cady. Thank you, Mayor, for giving me that time.
He was a good man. I would agree with you. I move we adjourn.
Second.
Capron.
Aye.
Greckin.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Waters.
Aye.
Okay, Mayor, they want to see you.
Help me pack up, boss.